Welcome to Question Bank Hub. Heavy Duty Equipment Technician Red Seal Exam Practice. 135 questions, answered and explained. Based on the 2022 Red Seal Occupational Standard. This exam covers 135 questions across 9 major work activities. Questions test knowledge recall, procedural application, and critical thinking. Take your time with each question, and let's begin. Question 1. What type of personal protective equipment, PPE, is required when working with high-voltage systems on hybrid heavy equipment? A. Standard leather work gloves and safety glasses. B. Class 0 or higher electrical rated gloves and face shield. C. Nitrile gloves and hearing protection. D. Cotton gloves and steel-toed boots only. The correct answer is B. When working with high-voltage systems on hybrid or electric heavy equipment, technicians must wear Class 0 or higher electrical rated insulating gloves and a face shield. These gloves are specifically rated for electrical work and provide protection against electrical shock. Standard work gloves offer no electrical insulation and would not protect against high-voltage hazards. The face shield protects against potential arc flash incidents that can occur during high-voltage work. Question 2. What is the correct procedure for implementing lockout-tagout before servicing a hydraulic system on heavy equipment? A. Disconnect battery, relieve pressure, lockout, apply tags. B. Lower all attachments to ground and shut off the engine. C. Turn off ignition and place warning sign on steering wheel. D. Engage parking brake and manually close hydraulic valves. The correct answer is A. Proper lockout-tagout procedure for hydraulic systems requires multiple steps to ensure all energy sources are controlled. First, the battery must be disconnected to prevent accidental startup. Then, hydraulic pressure must be relieved by cycling controls with the engine off and lowering attachments. All energy isolation devices must be locked out, and each technician must apply their personal lock and tag. This comprehensive approach prevents unexpected equipment activation and protects against stored hydraulic energy release. Question 3. When performing a hazard analysis before working on a crawler dozer in a remote location, which step should be completed first? A. Check the availability of required replacement parts. B. Contact operator to discuss equipment repair history. C. Review the manufacturer's warranty coverage details. D. Identify hazards including terrain, weather, conditions. The correct answer is D. The first step in any hazard analysis is to identify potential hazards in the work environment. For remote locations, this includes assessing terrain stability, weather conditions that may affect safety, proximity to hazards like cliffs or water, and the current condition of the equipment. This assessment must be completed before any work begins to ensure appropriate safety measures are in place. Parts availability, repair history, and warranty information, while important for planning, are secondary to establishing a safe work environment. Question 4. What is the primary purpose of a hydraulic flow meter when diagnosing heavy equipment hydraulic systems? A. To measure the viscosity of hydraulic fluid. B. To measure the volume of fluid flowing through a circuit per unit of time. C. To detect contamination particles in hydraulic fluid. D. To measure the temperature of hydraulic fluid at the pump outlet. The correct answer is B. A hydraulic flow meter measures the volume of hydraulic fluid flowing through a circuit, typically expressed in liters or gallons per minute, LPM or GPM. This measurement is essential for diagnosing pump efficiency, checking for internal leakage in cylinders and motors, and verifying system performance against manufacturer specifications. While temperature and contamination are important parameters, they require different instruments such as thermometers and particle counters respectively. Question 5. When using a crane to lift a heavy equipment transmission for removal, what must the technician verify before the lift? A. That the crane has been recently painted and serviced. B. That the shop floor has been cleaned and cleared. C. That lift capacity exceeds load and rigging is inspected. D. That all other technicians have left the area. The correct answer is C. Before any crane lift, the technician must verify that the crane's rated capacity exceeds the weight of the load being lifted, including rigging equipment. All rigging components including slings, shackles, and lifting eyes must be properly rated for the load and inspected for damage or wear. The lift path must be clear, and the load must be properly balanced. These verifications are critical for preventing accidents during lifting operations, which represent one of the highest risk activities in heavy equipment repair. Question 6. What is the function of a CAN bus breakout box when diagnosing electronic control systems on heavy equipment? A. To boost voltage levels during low battery conditions. B. To reset and clear fault codes stored in the ECM. C. To reprogram engine control module with new software. D. To access CAN signals without interrupting communication. The correct answer is D. A CAN bus breakout box is a diagnostic tool that provides test points for accessing CAN network signals without interrupting communication between electronic modules. The breakout box connects in line with the diagnostic connector and allows technicians to measure CAN high, CAN low, and ground signals using a multimeter or oscilloscope. This is essential for diagnosing communication faults, verifying signal integrity, and checking terminating resistor values without disrupting the network operation. Question 7. What is the correct procedure for taking an oil sample from a hydraulic system for analysis? A. Drain cold oil from tank drain plug into sample bottle. B. Extract from sample port at operating temp with vacuum pump. C. Remove filter and squeeze oil from the filter element. D. Open reservoir filler cap and dip bottle into the tank. The correct answer is B. Proper oil sampling requires extracting oil through a dedicated sample port while the system is at operating temperature, ensuring the fluid is well mixed and representative of actual operating conditions. A vacuum pump with clean tubing prevents contamination that could affect analysis results. Sampling from the tank bottom, filter elements, or open reservoirs introduces contaminants or captures settled particles that do not represent the actual system condition. Consistent sampling technique is essential for trending wear patterns over time. Question 8. During an operational checkout after a major repair, a wheel loader shows normal hydraulic pressures but slower than normal implement cycle times. What should the technician check first? A. The hydraulic pump flow rate at operating temperature. B. The engine thermostat for proper cooling system operation. C. The transmission fluid level. D. The air filter restriction indicator. The correct answer is A. When hydraulic pressures are normal but cycle times are slow, the most likely cause is reduced pump flow rather than a pressure-related issue. The technician should check the hydraulic pump flow rate at operating temperature using a flow meter. A worn pump can maintain pressure under light loads but cannot deliver sufficient volume for normal implement speeds. Other causes could include internal leakage in cylinders or control valves, but verifying pump output establishes whether the problem is in the pump or elsewhere in the circuit. Question 9. When documenting a complex repair for a customer, what information should be included in the work order? A. Only the final repair cost and payment terms due. B. The technician's personal opinion of equipment condition. C. Only the parts numbers and quantities that were used. D. Problem description, diagnosis, parts, labor, recommendations. The correct answer is D. Professional work order documentation should include a comprehensive record of the repair including the customer's complaint or symptoms reported, diagnostic procedures performed and findings, all parts replaced with part numbers, labor time for each operation, any additional recommendations for maintenance or future repairs, and final costs. This documentation provides value to the customer, protects the shop legally, creates a service history for the equipment, and enables effective communication if warranty issues arise. Question 10. What is the purpose of valve lash adjustment on a diesel engine? A. To maintain proper clearance for correct valve operation. B. To optimize fuel efficiency by improving combustion timing. C. To minimize engine noise during cold startup conditions. D. To enhance turbocharger boost pressure and response. The correct answer is A. Valve lash adjustment maintains the correct clearance between the rocker arm and valve stem tip when the valve is fully closed. This clearance allows for thermal expansion of engine components when operating at high temperatures. Incorrect valve lash can cause valves to not fully seat, too tight, leading to burned valves and compression loss, or reduced valve opening, too loose, causing power loss and increased emissions. Proper adjustment ensures optimal engine performance and longevity. Question 11. When performing a cylinder compression test on a diesel engine, what procedure should be followed? A. Warm engine to operating temperature, disable fuel, crank 4 strokes. B. Test with engine cold, all glow plugs installed, crank continuously. C. Run engine at idle speed, measure compression with pressure gauge. D. Remove air filter element, measure compression at intake manifold. The correct answer is A. A proper cylinder compression test requires the engine to be at operating temperature to ensure all components are properly expanded and seals are functioning normally. Fuel injection must be disabled to prevent engine startup and potential injury. The engine should be cranked through at least 4 compression strokes per cylinder to obtain an accurate reading, as the first few strokes may show lower values while the piston rings seat. All cylinders should be tested under the same conditions for valid comparison. Question 12. What diagnostic procedure should be followed when a diesel engine shows low power, white smoke at startup that clears after warm-up, and elevated coolant consumption with no external leaks? A. Worn piston rings causing excessive blow-by condition. B. Restricted fuel filter causing reduced fuel delivery. C. Cracked head or failed gasket allowing coolant entry. D. Faulty thermostat stuck in the full open position. The correct answer is C. The combination of white smoke at startup that clears after warm-up, low power, and coolant consumption without external leaks strongly indicates coolant entering the combustion chamber. This is typically caused by a cracked cylinder head or failed head gasket. When the engine is cold, the larger gap at the gasket or crack allows more coolant to seep in, creating white smoke. As the engine warms and metal expands, the leak may reduce, explaining why smoke clears. A pressure test and combustion gas detection in the coolant can confirm this diagnosis. Question 13. What does an oil analysis report indicating high silicon content suggest? A. The engine is running on synthetic oil formulation. B. The oil additive package has become depleted. C. Engine is running at correct operating temperature. D. Dirt contamination from compromised air filtration. The correct answer is D. High silicon content in an oil analysis report is a strong indicator of dirt or dust contamination. Silicon is the primary component of sand and dirt particles. This contamination typically enters through a compromised air filtration system, such as a damaged air filter, loose clamps, cracked intake hoses, or improperly sealed filter housing. Addressing the contamination source is critical, as abrasive particles cause accelerated wear to bearings, cylinder walls, and other precision surfaces. Question 14. What is the correct procedure for priming the lubrication system after an engine oil and filter change on heavy equipment? A. Pre-fill filter, add oil, crank until pressure indicated. B. Start engine immediately and run at high idle 5 minutes. C. Fill crankcase with twice the recommended oil amount. D. Remove all spark plugs and crank engine 1 minute. The correct answer is A. Proper priming procedure involves pre-filling the new oil filter with clean oil before installation to reduce the time the engine runs without full oil pressure. After adding oil to the proper level, the engine should be cranked without starting, fuel disabled, until the oil pressure gauge shows pressure. This ensures oil reaches all critical bearings and surfaces before the engine runs under load. Starting an engine with a dry filter can result in several seconds of operation without adequate lubrication, accelerating wear. Question 15. What is the function of a charge air cooler, intercooler, in a turbocharged diesel engine? A. To cool the fuel before it enters the injection pump according to industry standard practice. B. To cool the engine coolant before it enters the radiator based on manufacturer recommendations. C. To cool the compressed intake air from the turbocharger, increasing air density for improved combustion. D. To reduce exhaust gas temperature before it enters the catalytic converter. The correct answer is C. A charge air cooler, also called an intercooler, cools the compressed intake air after it leaves the turbocharger compressor. Compression heats the air significantly, reducing its density. By cooling this air before it enters the engine, the charge air cooler increases air density, allowing more oxygen molecules per combustion cycle. This improves engine power output, fuel efficiency, and reduces combustion temperatures, which helps control NOx emissions and prevent engine damage. Question 16. How should a technician diagnose a suspected boost pressure leak in the intake system? A. Pressurize intake and use soapy water to find leaks. B. Measure engine coolant temperature under full load. C. Check engine oil level for excessive consumption rate. D. Measure exhaust back pressure using a manometer gauge. The correct answer is A. To diagnose boost pressure leaks, the intake system should be pressurized with regulated compressed air, typically 10 to 15 psi, while the engine is not running. All connections from the turbocharger compressor outlet to the intake manifold must be checked. Leaks can be located by listening for escaping air or by applying soapy water solution to joints, clamps, and charge air cooler connections. This method safely identifies leaks that cause reduced power, increased fuel consumption, and excessive smoke. Question 17. What is the purpose of the turbocharger wastegate on a diesel engine? A. To regulate boost pressure by bypassing exhaust flow. B. To filter particulates from the exhaust gas stream. C. To preheat intake air during cold start conditions. D. To reduce exhaust noise levels during operation. The correct answer is A. The turbocharger wastegate is a valve that regulates boost pressure by allowing some exhaust gases to bypass the turbine wheel. When boost pressure reaches the desired level, the wastegate opens, diverting exhaust flow around the turbine. This prevents overboosting, which could damage the engine or turbocharger. The wastegate may be controlled mechanically by boost pressure or electronically by the engine control module for more precise boost control across different operating conditions. Question 18. What diagnostic procedure should be used to check for a restricted diesel exhaust system? A. Check the air filter restriction indicator light. B. Measure engine coolant temperature at idle speed. C. Measure battery voltage during engine cranking. D. Measure back pressure at exhaust manifold or turbo outlet. The correct answer is D. Exhaust system restriction is diagnosed by measuring back pressure at the exhaust manifold or turbocharger outlet using a pressure gauge. The measurement should be taken at rated engine speed and load. Excessive back pressure indicates a restricted exhaust system, commonly caused by a plugged diesel particulate filter, DPF, collapsed exhaust pipe, or plugged catalytic converter. Manufacturer specifications typically limit back pressure to 10 to 20 kilopascals depending on the engine. Question 19. What is the typical operating pressure range for a common rail diesel fuel injection system? A. 50 to 150 psi, 345 to 1034 kilopascals. B. 10 to 50 psi, 69 to 345 kilopascals. C. 5000 to 30,000 psi, 35 to 207 megapascals. D. 500 to 1000 psi, 3.4 to 6.9 megapascals. The correct answer is C. Common rail diesel fuel injection systems operate at extremely high pressures, typically ranging from 5,000 to 30,000 psi, 35 to 207 megapascals, with some newer systems exceeding 35,000 psi. These high pressures enable fine fuel atomization for complete combustion, reduced emissions, and improved fuel efficiency. The high-pressure pump maintains pressure in a common rail accumulator, while electronically controlled injectors precisely meter fuel delivery. Technicians must exercise extreme caution when working on these systems due to the dangerous injection pressures. Question 20. After replacing a diesel fuel filter, what procedure should be performed before starting the engine? A. Remove all injectors and clean them with solvent. B. Drain engine oil and replace with fresh oil filter. C. Disconnect the batteries and wait for 10 minutes. D. Bleed air using priming pump until fuel flows clear. The correct answer is D. After fuel filter replacement, air must be bled from the fuel system to ensure reliable starting and prevent damage to the injection pump. Most systems have a manual priming pump or electric lift pump that can be activated to pump fuel through the system. Bleed screws at the filter head and/or on the injection pump should be opened until fuel flows free of air bubbles. Attempting to start the engine with air in the system can cause extended cranking, damage to injection components, and potential fuel starvation damage to the high-pressure pump. Question 21. What procedure should be followed to diagnose intermittent hard starting and rough running with erratically fluctuating fuel pressure at idle? A. A worn timing gear on the camshaft sprocket. B. A faulty glow plug controller causing issues. C. Air entering fuel system through cracked suction line. D. Low engine oil level causing lifter noise issue. The correct answer is C. Erratically fluctuating fuel pressure at idle combined with hard starting and rough running strongly indicates air intrusion in the fuel system. Air typically enters through cracks in low-pressure suction lines, loose fittings, or degraded O-rings in fuel filter housings. Air is compressible, causing pressure fluctuations that disrupt consistent fuel delivery. The symptoms are often intermittent because air may enter only under certain conditions such as temperature changes affecting line flexibility. A careful inspection of all suction side connections and lines, including the tank pickup, is required. Question 22. What safety precaution must be taken before loosening any high-pressure fuel lines on a common rail diesel engine? A. Wear standard leather work gloves for protection. B. Relieve pressure, wait 10 minutes, crack fittings with PPE. C. Run the engine at high idle to warm fuel system. D. Disconnect the fuel tank breather vent first. The correct answer is B. High-pressure fuel lines in common rail systems can retain dangerous pressure even after engine shutdown. Before loosening any connections, technicians must wait for pressure to dissipate, typically at least 10 minutes, or as specified by the manufacturer. Appropriate PPE including safety glasses and face shield should be worn. Fuel under high pressure can penetrate skin, causing severe injury requiring immediate medical attention. Fittings should be loosened carefully using proper tools, with rags positioned to contain any residual fuel spray. Question 23. What is the function of the engine coolant temperature sensor in a diesel engine management system? A. To activate the cooling fan clutch system only. B. To provide ECM data for fuel and glow plug control. C. To control thermostat opening and closing temps. D. To measure the temperature of engine exhaust gases. The correct answer is B. The engine coolant temperature, ECT, sensor provides critical temperature data to the engine control module, ECM. This information is used to adjust fuel injection timing and quantity for cold starts, control glow plug activation and duration, adjust idle speed, enable or disable certain emissions controls, and trigger cooling fan operation. A faulty ECT sensor can cause hard starting, poor cold running, excessive fuel consumption, and emissions problems, as the ECM may use incorrect fueling strategies. Question 24. When diagnosing an engine management system fault code, what is the first step after retrieving the diagnostic trouble code? A. Disconnect battery for 30 minutes to reset system. B. Replace the component indicated by the fault code. C. Review code definition and follow diagnostic procedure. D. Clear the fault code and test drive the equipment. The correct answer is C. After retrieving a diagnostic trouble code, the first step is to review the code definition and understand the conditions under which the code sets. The manufacturer's diagnostic procedure should then be followed, which typically includes verifying the complaint, checking related wiring and connectors, testing sensor values against specifications, and checking for related codes. Simply replacing components based on fault codes without diagnosis leads to unnecessary parts replacement and may not address the root cause if the fault is in wiring or related systems. Question 25. What is the correct diagnostic procedure when a diesel engine enters reduced power mode under load but runs normally at idle, with normal scan tool sensor values? A. Actual versus commanded values for boost, e.g. R, fuel. B. The hydraulic oil level condition and quality. C. The intake air temperature sensor calibration. D. The engine serial number and production date info. The correct answer is A. When an engine derates under load but shows normal sensor readings at idle, the issue is likely related to the engine's inability to achieve commanded values under load conditions. The technician should monitor actual versus commanded values for boost pressure, e.g. our valve position, fuel rail pressure, and other critical parameters while operating under load. A system that cannot achieve its commanded values, for example, boost pressure lower than commanded, may trigger a derate to protect the engine. This approach identifies whether the problem is mechanical, unable to achieve values, or electronic, incorrect commands. Question 26. What procedure must be followed after replacing an engine control module, ECM, on a heavy equipment diesel engine? A. Simply clear all fault codes and test drive machine. B. Replace all engine sensors at the same time first. C. Program ECM with engine parameters and calibrations. D. No special procedures required, ECM is plug and play. The correct answer is C. After replacing an ECM, the new unit must be programmed with the correct engine configuration parameters including engine serial number, horsepower rating, torque curves, and emission calibrations specific to the equipment application. Additional calibrations may be required for sensors, injectors, trim codes, and other components. Relearn procedures for fuel system components and exhaust aftertreatment may also be necessary. Using manufacturer diagnostic software, the technician must ensure all parameters match the original configuration and the equipment application requirements. Question 27. What triggers an active regeneration cycle in a diesel particulate filter, DPF, system? A. Soot accumulation reaching ECM calculated level. B. Low engine coolant temperature detected. C. High ambient air temperature conditions. D. Low fuel level detected in the fuel tank. The correct answer is A. Active DPF regeneration is triggered when the ECM calculates that soot accumulation has reached a level requiring oxidation. The ECM estimates soot loading based on engine operating hours, fuel consumption, exhaust temperatures, and pressure differential across the DPF. During active regeneration, the ECM initiates measures to increase exhaust temperature above 550 degrees Celsius, such as late post-injection, intake throttling, or exhaust throttling, to burn accumulated soot. If regeneration is repeatedly interrupted or inhibited, soot overloading can require manual or forced regeneration. Question 28. What is the purpose of the pressure cap on a heavy equipment cooling system? A. To prevent coolant from circulating through engine. B. To regulate the coolant flow rate through system. C. To raise boiling point by maintaining system pressure. D. To filter debris and contaminants from the coolant. The correct answer is C. The pressure cap serves two critical functions in a cooling system. First, it maintains system pressure, typically 7 to 15 psi, which raises the boiling point of the coolant, allowing the engine to operate at higher temperatures without the coolant boiling. Second, the cap contains a pressure relief valve that opens when pressure exceeds the rated limit, preventing damage to cooling system components. The cap also contains a vacuum relief valve that opens when the system cools and pressure drops below atmospheric, preventing hose collapse. Question 29. What is the correct procedure for pressure testing a heavy equipment cooling system? A. Add UV dye to coolant and run engine 1 hour. B. Run engine at high idle and observe temp gauge. C. Install tester, pressurize to cap rating, watch drop. D. Drain coolant and visually inspect all hoses. The correct answer is C. Cooling system pressure testing requires the engine to be cold and not running. A pressure tester is installed in place of the pressure cap and the system is pressurized to the cap's rated pressure. The pressure should be held for at least 10 to 15 minutes while observing for pressure drop, which indicates a leak. Visual inspection during the test may reveal external leaks at hoses, connections, or the radiator. Internal leaks, head gasket, cracked head, may require additional testing such as combustion gas detection in the coolant. Question 30. What type of steering system is commonly used on articulated wheel loaders? A. Rack and pinion with hydraulic power assist system. B. Articulated frame steering with hydraulic cylinders. C. Four-wheel independent hydraulic steering system. D. Recirculating ball steering with power assist unit. The correct answer is B. Articulated wheel loaders use articulated frame steering, where hydraulic cylinders pivot the front frame section relative to the rear frame section at a central articulation joint. This provides a tight turning radius and maintains stability with heavy loads. The operator's steering input controls hydraulic flow to the steering cylinders. This differs from conventional steering systems where the wheels pivot on their axles, and is well suited for off-road applications where maneuverability is essential. Question 31. What is the correct procedure for checking steering cylinder drift on an articulated loader? A. Position on level surface, turn wheels, shut down, monitor drift. B. Measure oil level and condition in the steering reservoir tank. C. Operate loader at high speed on designated test track surface. D. Inspect the steering wheel assembly and column for play. The correct answer is A. To check steering cylinder drift, the machine should be positioned on a level surface with the steering turned fully to one side. After shutting down the engine, removing hydraulic pressure input, the technician monitors for any steering movement over a specified period, typically 10 to 15 minutes. Movement indicates internal leakage past the cylinder seals or control valve. The amount of acceptable drift is specified by the manufacturer. Excessive drift can cause the machine to wander during operation and indicates the need for cylinder or valve repair. Question 32. What diagnostic procedure should be followed when an articulated haul truck requires excessive steering effort and responds slowly, with normal hydraulic oil temperature and level? A. A faulty transmission control module. B. Worn brake pads on the front axle. C. A low engine coolant level in system. D. Worn steering pump or restricted filter. The correct answer is D. Excessive steering effort and slow response with normal oil temperature and level suggests inadequate hydraulic flow or pressure to the steering circuit. The most likely causes include a worn steering pump with reduced output, a restricted suction filter limiting pump intake flow, or a relief valve setting that is too low, limiting system pressure. Diagnosing this requires checking pump flow rate and system pressure against specifications. A worn pump will show reduced flow, while a restricted filter will cause pump cavitation noise and low output. Question 33. What must be done before disconnecting steering cylinder hydraulic lines for repair? A. Warm up the engine to operating temperature. B. Engage the parking brake only for safety. C. Relieve pressure, support frame, block machine. D. Fill the hydraulic reservoir to maximum level. The correct answer is C. Before disconnecting steering cylinder lines, all hydraulic pressure must be relieved by cycling controls with the engine off. The frame sections must be supported or secured to prevent movement when the cylinders are disconnected, as the weight of the machine could cause uncontrolled articulation. The machine must be blocked to prevent travel on a grade. Personal protective equipment should be worn due to potential for residual pressure and fluid spray. These precautions prevent serious injury from unexpected machine movement or high-pressure fluid. Question 34. What is the function of a hydropneumatic suspension accumulator on an off-highway truck? A. To store hydraulic fluid for steering system. B. To filter contaminants from suspension oil. C. To absorb shocks using compressed nitrogen gas. D. To cool the hydraulic fluid during operation. The correct answer is C. Hydropneumatic suspension accumulators contain compressed nitrogen gas separated from hydraulic oil by a piston or bladder. The nitrogen compresses to absorb road shocks and vibrations, providing a cushioned ride. The accumulators also help maintain proper ride height by providing spring force. Low nitrogen precharge results in harsh ride and bottoming out, while excessive precharge causes the suspension to be too stiff. Regular precharge checks are essential for proper suspension function. Question 35. How should a technician check the nitrogen precharge in a hydropneumatic suspension accumulator? A. By measuring suspension cylinder stroke length. B. By measuring hydraulic oil level in reservoir. C. By bouncing machine and counting oscillations. D. Release pressure, use nitrogen gauge to measure. The correct answer is D. To check nitrogen precharge, all hydraulic pressure must first be released from the accumulator by cycling controls with the engine off and allowing the suspension to fully settle. A nitrogen charging kit with a calibrated gauge is then connected to the gas valve. The gauge reading indicates the nitrogen precharge pressure, which should be compared to manufacturer specifications. If low, dry nitrogen is added, never use compressed air, as oxygen mixed with oil vapor can create an explosion hazard. Question 36. What component in an equalizer beam suspension system allows the axles to move independently while distributing loads? A. The drive shaft universal joint coupling. B. The steering knuckle assembly pivot. C. The brake caliper mounting bracket plate. D. The equalizer beam that pivots and connects axles. The correct answer is D. The equalizer beam, also called a walking beam or bogie beam, is the key component that allows each axle to move independently over uneven terrain while distributing the load between both axles. The beam pivots on a center mount attached to the frame, with each end connected to an axle. When one axle goes over an obstacle, the beam pivots, allowing the other axle to remain in contact with the ground. This improves traction and reduces stress on the frame. Question 37. What type of brake system do most large off-highway haul trucks use for service braking? A. Drum brakes with mechanical linkage system. B. Oil-cooled wet disc brakes, hydraulic applied. C. Cable-actuated band brakes for stopping. D. Electromagnetic retarder brakes only used. The correct answer is B. Large off-highway haul trucks typically use oil-cooled wet disc brakes for service braking. These brakes feature multiple friction discs that run in oil, providing excellent heat dissipation for the high braking loads these machines experience. The oil cooling allows sustained braking on long grades without fade. Hydraulic pressure applied by the operator's brake pedal squeezes the discs together. These brake systems are designed to handle the enormous kinetic energy of fully loaded trucks weighing hundreds of tons. Question 38. What is the correct procedure for checking wet disc brake wear on heavy equipment? A. Measure piston travel and compare to specifications. B. Listen for squealing noise during brake application. C. Check the brake fluid level in the reservoir. D. Visually inspect brake pads through wheel spokes. The correct answer is A. Wet disc brake wear is determined by measuring piston travel or brake pack clearance, not by visual inspection as with conventional brakes. Using manufacturer specifications, the technician measures how far the brake piston travels before the discs engage, or measures the clearance between components. Excessive travel or clearance indicates worn discs requiring replacement. Some systems have wear indicators or automatic adjusters. Regular measurement prevents brake failure from worn components and ensures adequate braking force. Question 39. What is the correct procedure for diagnosing spongy brakes with excessive pedal travel when brake oil level is correct and there are no visible leaks? A. Air in brake system or worn brake components. B. The transmission fluid condition and level. C. The tire pressures on all wheels of machine. D. The condition of the engine air filter element. The correct answer is A. Spongy brakes with excessive pedal travel, despite correct fluid level and no visible leaks, typically indicates air trapped in the hydraulic system or worn brake components. Air is compressible and creates a spongy feel. The technician should first bleed the brake system to remove any trapped air, following manufacturer procedures. If bleeding does not resolve the issue, brake component wear should be measured, as worn discs or seals require more piston travel to achieve clamping force, increasing pedal travel. Question 40. When replacing wet disc brake friction discs, what precaution must be taken with the new discs? A. Paint friction surfaces with anti-seize compound. B. Heat the discs with torch to expand for install. C. Pre-soak new discs in correct brake oil first. D. Install the discs dry for better initial friction. The correct answer is C. New wet disc brake friction discs must be pre-soaked in the correct brake oil before installation. This preconditioning allows the friction material to absorb oil, which is essential for proper operation of wet disc brakes. Installing dry discs can cause glazing, reduced braking performance, and accelerated wear. The soak time varies by manufacturer, typically 24 hours or as specified. Using the correct oil type is critical, as the wrong oil can damage the friction material or reduce braking performance. Question 41. What is the purpose of the track adjuster recoil spring on a crawler dozer? A. To maintain tension and absorb shock loads. B. To adjust the engine idle speed setting. C. To support the weight of the blade unit. D. To engage the steering clutches properly. The correct answer is A. The track adjuster recoil spring maintains proper track tension while allowing the front idler to move rearward to absorb shock loads. When the track hits an obstacle, the spring compresses, preventing damage to undercarriage components. The spring then pushes the idler forward to maintain tension. Correct track tension is critical. Too loose causes track derailment and accelerated wear, too tight causes excessive component wear and power loss. Some systems use hydraulic tensioners with similar function. Question 42. How should track tension be checked on a crawler excavator? A. By measuring the engine oil pressure reading. B. By checking the hydraulic oil color visually. C. By measuring track sag at specified location. D. By counting the number of track links total. The correct answer is C. Track tension is checked by measuring track sag at a specified location, typically between the front carrier roller and the sprocket or idler. With the machine on level ground and the track clean of debris, a straight edge is placed across the grousers at the top of the track. The distance from the straight edge to the track shoe is measured and compared to manufacturer specifications. Adjustments are made by adding or releasing grease from the track adjuster mechanism to move the idler and change tension. Question 43. What method is used to check track link and pin wear on crawler equipment? A. Measure the engine fuel consumption rates. B. Measure pitch between pins and compare to specs. C. Visual inspection only for obvious wear. D. Weigh the track assembly, compare to new weight. The correct answer is B. Track link and pin wear is measured by checking the pitch, distance between pin centers, over a specified number of links, typically 3 to 5 consecutive links. As pins and bushings wear, the pitch increases, causing the track to lengthen. The measured pitch is compared to manufacturer specifications for new and maximum allowable wear limits. Excessive wear can cause the track to ride improperly on the sprocket, leading to accelerated wear of other components. This measurement helps determine when track repair or replacement is needed. Question 44. What special hazard exists when servicing multi-piece wheel assemblies on heavy equipment? A. Ring separation can cause fatal injuries. B. The wheels are too heavy to lift by hand. C. The wheels are painted with lead-based paint. D. The tires contain hazardous chemicals inside. The correct answer is C. Multi-piece wheel assemblies used on heavy equipment pose a serious explosion hazard. The lock rings and side rings that hold the tire in place can separate violently if the wheel is disassembled while under pressure, or if components are damaged or improperly assembled. These separations have caused fatalities. Proper procedures require complete deflation verification, use of approved safety cages during inflation, and inspection of all components for damage or corrosion before assembly. Only trained technicians should service these assemblies. Question 45. Before inflating a tire on a multi-piece rim assembly, what inspections must be completed? A. Check the tire brand and manufacture date only. B. Check the condition of the valve cap only. C. Verify tire pressure monitoring system works. D. Inspect rim components for cracks and seating. The correct answer is D. Before inflating a multi-piece rim assembly, all components must be thoroughly inspected. This includes checking the base rim, lock ring, side ring, and O-ring for cracks, corrosion, damage, or distortion. Components must be matched, same manufacturer and size, and properly seated. The O-ring must be the correct size and in good condition. Any damaged or mismatched components must be replaced. Inflation must occur in an approved safety cage with the technician standing clear. These inspections prevent explosive separation during or after inflation. Question 46. What is the function of the voltage regulator in a heavy equipment charging system? A. To regulate field current and maintain charging voltage. B. To protect the starter motor from heat damage. C. To increase battery storage capacity over time. D. To convert alternating current into direct current. The correct answer is A. The voltage regulator controls the charging system output by regulating the current flowing through the alternator's field coil, rotor. By varying the field current, the regulator controls the strength of the magnetic field, which determines alternator output voltage. The regulator maintains charging voltage within the proper range, typically 13.8-14.4 V for 12 V systems, 27.6-28.8 V for 24 V systems, regardless of engine speed or electrical load. This prevents undercharging or overcharging of batteries. Question 47. What is the correct procedure for testing alternator output on heavy equipment? A. Measure battery voltage with engine off at full charge. B. Disconnect alternator and bench test using a multimeter. C. Inspect alternator belt condition, tension, and alignment. D. Run engine at specified RPM, apply load, measure output. The correct answer is D. Proper alternator testing requires the engine to be running at the manufacturer specified RPM, typically 1500 to 2000 RPM. An electrical load should be applied using equipment loads or a carbon pile tester to simulate operating conditions. Voltage and current output are measured at the alternator output terminal or battery and compared to specifications. The test should verify proper voltage regulation under varying loads and confirm the alternator can produce rated amperage. Testing at the battery also checks for excessive voltage drop in the charging circuit. Question 48. What diagnostic procedure should be followed when an excavator has repeated alternator failures and sulfated batteries, but alternator output tests within specifications? A. Engine thermostat stuck open reducing temperatures. B. Internal hydraulic system leak affecting components. C. Excessive charging circuit resistance causing overheating. D. operator using incorrect fuel grade for conditions. The correct answer is C. When alternator output tests normal at the alternator but batteries remain undercharged and sulfated, excessive resistance in the charging circuit is the likely cause. This resistance can occur in corroded battery terminals, damaged cables, loose connections, or poor grounds. The voltage drop across these resistances reduces the voltage reaching the batteries, causing undercharging and sulfation. The alternator works harder to overcome this resistance, leading to overheating and premature failure. A voltage drop test of the charging circuit will identify the high resistance points. Question 49. What causes the characteristic whine noise from an alternator during operation? A. The rectifier diodes converting AC to DC, or worn bearings. B. Air in the cooling system according to industry standard practice. C. Incorrect fuel injection timing based on manufacturer recommendations. D. Low hydraulic oil level under standard operating conditions. The correct answer is A. Alternator whine is typically caused by two sources: the normal slight noise from rectifier diodes converting AC to DC, which can become amplified through the electrical system as a whine in audio equipment, or worn alternator bearings causing mechanical whine. A bearing whine typically increases with engine speed and may be accompanied by physical wobble of the alternator pulley. Diode noise is electrical and may be more noticeable through speakers or communication equipment. Excessive whine from diodes may indicate failing rectifier components. Question 50. What precaution must be taken when replacing an alternator on a machine with an electronic control system? A. Remove the air filter element without considering system requirements. B. Run the engine at high idle for 10 minutes first before consulting equipment documentation. C. Disconnect the battery negative cable before removing or installing the alternator to prevent voltage spikes that can damage electronic components. D. Drain all fluids from the machine without reviewing manufacturer specifications. The correct answer is C. When replacing an alternator, the battery negative cable must be disconnected before any electrical connections are disturbed. This prevents voltage spikes that can damage sensitive electronic control modules, ECMs. Voltage spikes can occur when connections are made or broken with the circuit energized. Additionally, if the alternator output wire accidentally contacts ground with the battery connected, it can damage the alternator and other components. After installation, connections should be verified before reconnecting the battery. Question 51. What is the purpose of the starter solenoid on heavy equipment? A. To activate the glow plugs regardless of equipment operating conditions. B. To control the fuel injection pump without reviewing manufacturer specifications. C. To engage the starter drive with the flywheel ring gear and complete the high current circuit to the starter motor. D. To regulate engine coolant temperature without considering system requirements. The correct answer is C. The starter solenoid performs two critical functions. It mechanically shifts the starter drive, pinion gear, into engagement with the engine flywheel ring gear, and it closes the high current electrical contacts to deliver battery power to the starter motor. This design allows a small control current from the ignition switch to control the much larger current required by the starter motor. Some systems use a separate solenoid for drive engagement and a magnetic switch for the electrical circuit. Question 52. When diagnosing a slow cranking condition, what should be tested first? A. Battery state of charge, battery condition, and cable connections for excessive voltage drop. B. The engine compression based on the initial evaluation results. C. The alternator output capacity using the preliminary assessment data. D. The fuel filter restriction without performing further verification. The correct answer is A. Slow cranking is most commonly caused by insufficient power delivery to the starter, not starter problems. The diagnosis should begin with testing battery state of charge and condition, as discharged or failing batteries cannot deliver adequate current. Cable connections should be inspected for corrosion and tested for voltage drop, as high resistance in the starter circuit reduces available power. Only after confirming adequate power delivery should the starter motor itself be considered as the cause. Question 53. What is the maximum acceptable voltage drop across the starter motor ground circuit during cranking? A. 5.0 volts as determined by the initial assessment. B. 2.0 volts under standard operating conditions. C. 0.2 to 0.5 volts depending on system voltage. D. 0 volts always according to industry standard practice. The correct answer is C. The maximum acceptable voltage drop across the starter ground circuit is typically 0.2 to 0.5 volts for most heavy equipment applications, varying by system voltage, 12V or 24V, and manufacturer specifications. Excessive voltage drop in the ground circuit reduces the effective voltage available to the starter motor, causing slow cranking. Common causes include corroded ground connections, damaged cables, or poor contact between the engine and frame ground straps. Testing is done by measuring voltage between the starter housing and battery negative during cranking. Question 54. When installing a starter motor, what adjustment may be required for proper operation? A. Timing the starter to the camshaft position under standard operating conditions. B. Adjusting the solenoid voltage output as determined by the initial assessment. C. Setting the starter rotation direction based on manufacturer recommendations. D. Shimming the starter to achieve proper pinion-to-ring gear clearance and engagement depth. The correct answer is D. Many starter installations require shimming to achieve proper clearance between the starter pinion and flywheel ring gear. Incorrect clearance can cause grinding noise during engagement, premature wear of both gears, or failure to engage properly. Shims are added or removed between the starter mounting flange and the mounting surface to adjust pinion depth. The proper clearance and engagement depth are specified by the manufacturer. After installation, engagement should be tested to verify smooth operation without grinding. Question 55. What is the purpose of battery equalizing charge on a flooded lead-acid battery bank? A. To drain all electrolyte from the cells as determined by the initial assessment B. To balance the charge levels across all cells by applying a controlled overcharge that removes sulfation and mixes the electrolyte. C. To reduce the battery capacity permanently based on manufacturer recommendations. D. To test the battery case for cracks according to industry standard practice. The correct answer is B. An equalizing charge is a controlled overcharge applied to flooded lead-acid batteries to equalize the charge across all cells. Over time, cells can develop imbalanced charge levels, with some cells becoming more sulfated than others. The controlled overcharge causes gassing that mixes the electrolyte, preventing acid stratification, and converts lead sulfate back to active material. Equalizing should only be performed on flooded batteries per manufacturer recommendations, as sealed batteries cannot vent the gases produced. Question 56. How should a conductance tester be used to evaluate battery condition? A. Connect directly to the battery terminals with the battery disconnected from the circuit, enter battery specifications, and interpret the conductance reading. B. Check only the electrolyte level and color as outlined in the maintenance work order C. Connect to the charging system output only according to standard maintenance procedures D. Measure the temperature of the battery case as specified in the manufacturer's manual The correct answer is A. A conductance tester evaluates battery condition by measuring the plate's ability to conduct current, which correlates to battery capacity and state of health. The tester is connected directly to the clean battery terminals with the battery disconnected from the electrical system. The battery's specifications, CCA rating, type, are entered, and the tester applies a small AC signal to measure conductance. The reading is compared to the battery's rating to determine if it is good, marginal, or requires replacement. This test can be performed regardless of state of charge. Question 57. What is the correct procedure when a 24-volt series battery system shows normal voltage at rest but cranks slowly, with individual tests showing one battery at 100% and one at 40% capacity? A. The starter motor is sized incorrectly as specified in the manufacturer's manual. B. The battery cables are too short following the recommended service protocol. C. The alternator is overcharging according to standard maintenance procedures. D. The weak battery limits the current output of the series-connected pair, requiring replacement of the weak battery. The correct answer is D. In a series battery configuration, the weakest battery limits the performance of the entire bank. While the combined voltage may appear normal, 24V, the weak battery cannot deliver its share of current, restricting the total current available for cranking. Additionally, the weak battery may create high internal resistance that further limits current flow. The weak battery must be replaced with one of matching age and capacity. Installing a new battery with an old battery can cause the new battery to be overworked and fail prematurely. Question 58. What safety precaution is required when charging batteries or working near them? A. Keep the battery compartment sealed tightly according to workplace safety requirements. B. Wear steel-toed boots only, following established workplace procedures. C. Ensure adequate ventilation because charging produces hydrogen gas which is explosive. D. Work in direct sunlight, as specified in the workplace safety plan. The correct answer is C. Charging lead-acid batteries produces hydrogen gas, which is highly flammable and explosive. Adequate ventilation is essential to prevent hydrogen accumulation to dangerous levels. Additionally, sparks or flames must be kept away from batteries, eye protection should be worn due to acid splash hazard, and acid-resistant gloves should be used when handling batteries. Battery compartments on equipment are designed with ventilation, which must not be blocked. A spark from disconnecting a cable while charging can ignite accumulated hydrogen. Question 59. What is the purpose of a relay in heavy equipment electrical circuits? A. To allow a small control current to switch a larger load current, reducing current flow through switches and control wiring. B. To increase the voltage in the circuit without considering system requirements. C. To store electrical energy for later use without reviewing manufacturer specifications. D. To convert AC power to DC power before consulting equipment documentation. The correct answer is A. Relays are electromagnetic switches that allow a small control current to activate a larger load current. This serves several purposes. It reduces the current flow through control switches, which extends switch life, it allows shorter, smaller gauge wire for control circuits, and it provides a controlled switching point for high current devices. For example, a work light relay allows the cab switch to control only the relay coil current, while the relay contacts handle the full light current through heavy gauge wire. Question 60. How should a technician test a relay for proper operation? A. Visual inspection only according to standard maintenance procedures. B. Apply control voltage to the coil terminals and use an ohmmeter or continuity tester to verify the contacts switch from open to closed. C. Check the relay mounting bracket for rust following the recommended service protocol. D. Measure the relay weight as specified in the manufacturer's manual. The correct answer is B. Relay testing involves verifying both the coil and contact operation. First, use an ohmmeter to verify coil resistance is within specifications. Open coil will show infinite resistance. Then, apply the specified control voltage to the coil terminals and verify an audible click indicating the armature movement. Use an ohmmeter or continuity tester to confirm the contacts transition from open, normally open contacts, or closed, normally closed contacts, to the opposite state when the coil is energized. Contact resistance should be very low when closed. Question 61. What diagnostic procedure should be followed when a loader's headlights are dim and the wiring gets hot with the lights on, despite correct bulbs and fuse? A. The alternator is producing too much voltage following the recommended service protocol. B. High resistance in the headlight circuit wiring or connections causing voltage drop and heat. C. The headlight switch is located too far from the battery as outlined in the maintenance work order. D. The battery is too large for the electrical system according to standard maintenance procedures. The correct answer is B. Dim lights combined with hot wiring indicates high resistance in the circuit. High resistance causes voltage drop across the resistance point, reducing voltage to the lights and causing dimness. The resistance also converts electrical energy to heat, P equals I squared R, heating the wiring and connections. Common causes include corroded connectors, loose terminals, damaged wire strands, or undersized wire. A voltage drop test along the circuit will locate the high resistance point. This condition must be corrected to prevent wire damage and potential fire. Question 62. When repairing a damaged wire on heavy equipment, what is the preferred splicing method? A. Tie the wires in a knot as specified in the manufacturer's manual. B. Twist the wires together and wrap with electrical tape according to standard maintenance procedures. C. Use proper butt connectors or solder with heat shrink tubing to create a weather-resistant, mechanically sound splice. D. Use only wire nuts designed for household wiring as outlined in the maintenance work order. The correct answer is C. Proper wire splicing for heavy equipment requires methods that provide both mechanical strength and weather resistance. Quality butt connectors, preferably heat shrink or environmentally sealed types, crimped with the proper tool create reliable splices. For critical circuits, soldering with proper technique followed by heat shrink tubing provides an excellent connection. The splice should be supported to prevent fatigue from vibration. Twisted and taped splices are unreliable and create high resistance. Wire nuts are not suitable for the vibration and environmental conditions on equipment. Question 63. What is the function of the CAN bus network in modern heavy equipment? A. To store parts inventory information regardless of equipment operating conditions. B. To provide a standardized communication network allowing multiple electronic control modules to share data. C. To cool the electronic components without reviewing manufacturer specifications. D. To distribute fuel to the engine cylinders without considering system requirements. The correct answer is B. The Controller Area Network, CAN, bus is a standardized communication protocol that allows multiple electronic control modules, ECMs, to share data over a common network. Instead of dedicated wiring between every module, CAN bus uses two wires, CAN high and CAN low, to carry digital messages containing data from all connected modules. This reduces wiring complexity, enables sophisticated integrated control strategies, and allows diagnostic tools to communicate with all modules through a single connection point. Question 64. What is the correct procedure for diagnosing a CAN bus communication fault? A. Replace all electronic modules simultaneously according to standard maintenance procedures. B. Check CAN bus termination resistance, inspect wiring for damage, and use a scan tool to identify which modules are not communicating. C. Replace the diesel fuel filters as outlined in the maintenance work order. D. Drain the hydraulic oil and check for metal particles following the recommended service protocol. The correct answer is B. CAN bus fault diagnosis begins with checking the network termination resistance, which should typically be 60 ohms between CAN high and CAN low with all modules connected, two 120 ohm terminating resistors in parallel. Abnormal resistance indicates wiring issues or terminator problems. Next, visually inspect CAN bus wiring for damage, chafing, or water intrusion. A scan tool can identify which modules are present on the network and which are not communicating. Intermittent faults may require oscilloscope testing of the CAN signals. Question 65. What diagnostic procedure should be followed when multiple ECMs report intermittent communication errors that occur more frequently when the cab heater is running? A. The track tension adjustment as outlined in the maintenance work order. B. Electrical noise or interference from the cab heater motor or wiring affecting the CAN bus. C. The refrigerant charge in the air conditioning system according to standard maintenance procedures. D. The engine coolant temperature sensor calibration as specified in the manufacturer's manual. The correct answer is B. Intermittent communication errors that correlate with heater operation strongly suggest electrical noise interference. Electric motors such as heater blower motors can generate electrical noise that couples into nearby CAN bus wiring, corrupting communication signals. Investigation should include checking heater motor suppression components, if equipped, inspecting CAN bus wiring routing for proximity to heater wiring, verifying shielding and grounding, and checking for damaged connectors that may have lost their shielding effectiveness. Adding suppression or rerouting wiring may be required. Question 66. What is a pulse width modulated (PWM) signal and how is it used in electronic control systems? A. A pressure measurement technique for hydraulic systems as specified in the manufacturer's manual. B. A method for storing data in ECM memory following the recommended service protocol. C. A radio frequency signal for wireless communication according to standard maintenance procedures. D. A digital signal that varies the on-time versus off-time ratio to control analog devices like solenoids and motors. The correct answer is D. Pulse width modulation, PWM, is a control technique where a digital signal rapidly switches between on and off states at a fixed frequency. By varying the ratio of on-time to off-time, duty cycle, analog-like control of devices is achieved. For example, a 50% duty cycle PWM signal to a proportional hydraulic valve will partially open the valve. PWM allows precise control using digital electronics and is commonly used for proportional solenoids, motor speed control, lighting dimming, and various actuators. Question 67. How should a technician test a 3-wire electronic sensor with reference voltage? A. Replace the sensor and see if the problem goes away following the recommended service protocol. B. Measure the sensor's physical weight as outlined in the maintenance work order C. Measure only the wire color according to standard maintenance procedures D. Verify 5V reference voltage, check ground continuity, and measure signal voltage while verifying it changes appropriately with the measured condition. The correct answer is D. A 3-wire sensor typically has reference voltage, usually 5V, ground, and signal wires. Testing requires verifying the ECM supplies correct reference voltage, within 0.2V of specification, checking ground circuit continuity and voltage drop, and measuring the signal voltage. The signal should change appropriately with the condition being measured. For example, a temperature sensor signal should change when heated. Comparing measured values to specifications and verifying logical response confirms sensor operation. A scan tool displaying sensor data complements this testing. Question 68. What precautions must be taken when performing software updates on an engine control module? A. No special precautions are needed under standard operating conditions. B. Update software while driving the machine to test immediately according to industry standard practice. C. Drain all fluids before updating as determined by the initial assessment. D. Ensure stable power supply, follow manufacturer procedures exactly, do not interrupt the process, and verify successful completion before returning to service. The correct answer is D. ECM software updates require careful procedures to prevent corrupting the module. A stable power supply is critical. Connecting a battery maintainer or external power prevents voltage drops during the process. The manufacturer's exact procedure must be followed, including any prerequisite steps. The update process must not be interrupted, as partial updates can render the ECM non-functional. After completion, successful programming must be verified, any required relearn or calibration procedures performed, and the system tested before returning the machine to service. Question 69. What is the purpose of a machine monitoring system, telematics, on heavy equipment? A. To remotely track machine location, operating hours, fault codes, and performance data for fleet management. B. To measure fuel octane rating regardless of equipment operating conditions. C. To control the radio volume without considering system requirements. D. To sharpen cutting edges automatically without reviewing manufacturer specifications. The correct answer is A. Machine monitoring systems, also called telematics, use cellular or satellite communication to transmit data about the machine to a central management system. This includes GPS location for tracking and theft recovery, operating hours for maintenance scheduling, fault codes for proactive service, fuel consumption and idle time for efficiency analysis, and productivity metrics for fleet optimization. This data enables remote diagnostics, predictive maintenance, and improved fleet management decisions. Question 70. How should a technician diagnose a non-functional machine display panel that shows no image? A. Adjust the hydraulic relief pressure according to standard maintenance procedures. B. Replace all fuses in the machine following the recommended service protocol. C. Check power supply voltage to the display, verify ground connection, check CAN bus communication to the display, and test with a known good unit if available. D. Check the coolant level as outlined in the maintenance work order. The correct answer is C. Display panel diagnosis starts with verifying power supply voltage at the display connector and checking the ground circuit. Without power, nothing will display. Next, CAN bus communication to the display should be verified, as the display receives data from the network. Checking for fault codes in other modules may indicate display communication problems. If power and communication are confirmed, the display unit itself may be faulty. Testing with a known good display can confirm this. Some displays have brightness adjustments that may appear as no image if set too low. Question 71. What is the correct diagnostic procedure when a haul truck's temperature gauge reads normal but the engine overheats and shuts down on thermal protection? A. The engine oil viscosity rating as outlined in the maintenance work order. B. The coolant temperature sensor and its circuit, comparing actual coolant temperature to gauge reading. C. The tire pressure monitoring system according to standard maintenance procedures. D. The cab air conditioning refrigerant charge as specified in the manufacturer's manual. The correct answer is B. A discrepancy between gauge reading and actual engine condition indicates either the gauge or its sensor input is faulty while the engine protection system is responding to a different sensor or temperature input. Many systems use separate sensors for gauge display and engine protection. The technician should measure actual coolant temperature with a calibrated thermometer and compare to both the gauge reading and the temperature values the ECM is recording. A faulty gauge sensor would show normal while the protection sensor correctly triggers shutdown. Both sensors and their circuits must be tested. Question 72. What is the function of the clutch release bearing in a heavy equipment clutch assembly? A. To filter debris and contaminants from transmission oil. B. To increase clamping force applied to the clutch disc. C. To connect engine flywheel to transmission input shaft. D. To smoothly disengage clutch by pressing release fingers. The correct answer is D. The clutch release bearing, also called throwout bearing, is mounted on a sleeve that slides on the transmission input shaft housing. When the clutch pedal is pressed, the release fork pushes the bearing against the clutch release fingers, pressure plate diaphragm. The bearing allows the stationary fork to press against the spinning release fingers without excessive friction or wear. This action relieves the clamping force on the clutch disc, disengaging power transfer from the engine to the transmission. Question 73. What inspection should be performed on a flywheel when replacing a clutch assembly? A. Weigh flywheel on calibrated scale for balance check. B. Check flywheel surface paint color and factory markings. C. Count ring gear teeth and check for tooth condition. D. inspect friction surface for damage, measure warpage. The correct answer is D. When replacing a clutch, the flywheel friction surface must be inspected for heat damage, bluing, hot spots, cracks, and scoring from worn clutch facings. The surface should be measured for warpage using a straightedge and feeler gauges, and runout should be checked with a dial indicator. If damage is minor, resurfacing may be possible within manufacturer limits. The ring gear should also be inspected for worn or damaged teeth. Installing a new clutch on a damaged flywheel will result in premature clutch failure. Question 74. What causes gear clash during shifting in a manual transmission? A. Synchronizer wear or damage preventing the gear speeds from matching before engagement. B. Worn brake pads as determined by the initial assessment. C. High hydraulic oil temperature based on manufacturer recommendations. D. Low engine oil level under standard operating conditions. The correct answer is A. Gear clash during shifting is typically caused by worn or damaged synchronizers. Synchronizers are friction devices that match the speed of the gear to the speed of the synchronizer hub before the gear teeth engage. When synchronizers are worn, they cannot create enough friction to bring the gear to the correct speed, resulting in the grinding sound of the gear teeth clashing during engagement. Other causes include incorrect clutch adjustment preventing full disengagement, low transmission fluid level, or incorrect fluid viscosity. Question 75. What is the function of the torque converter in a power shift transmission? A. To cool the transmission oil based on manufacturer recommendations. B. To engage the parking brake according to industry standard practice. C. To provide direct mechanical connection between engine and transmission as determined by the initial assessment. D. To multiply engine torque during acceleration, provide a fluid coupling, and absorb torsional vibration. The correct answer is D. The torque converter performs three main functions. It multiplies engine torque during acceleration through the stator redirecting fluid flow, providing additional push on the turbine. It provides a fluid coupling that allows the engine to idle while the transmission is in gear, and it absorbs torsional vibration from the engine, protecting the transmission from shock loads. The converter housing is connected to the engine, and the turbine is connected to the transmission input, with fluid transferring power between them. Question 76. How should transmission oil temperature and pressure be tested on a power shift transmission? A. By measuring the engine coolant temperature following the recommended service protocol. B. By checking the battery voltage as outlined in the maintenance work order. C. Using calibrated gauges connected to test ports while operating the machine under load in each gear range. D. By visual inspection of the oil color according to standard maintenance procedures. The correct answer is C. Transmission pressure and temperature testing requires calibrated gauges connected to the test ports specified by the manufacturer. The machine should be operated at normal operating temperature under actual load conditions. Pressure readings should be taken in each gear range and during shifting to verify clutch apply pressures and converter circuit pressures are within specifications. Temperature should be monitored to ensure it remains within the normal operating range. Abnormal readings indicate internal wear, valve problems, or cooling system issues. Question 77. What diagnostic procedure should be followed when a wheel loader has slow response shifting from forward to reverse, and transmission pressure tests show normal apply pressures? A. Worn clutch packs or leaking seals in the shuttle circuit causing slow clutch application despite normal pressure. B. Low engine coolant level according to standard maintenance procedures C. Incorrect tire size following the recommended service protocol D. A restricted engine air filter as specified in the manufacturer's manual The correct answer is A. When transmission pressure is normal but shuttle response is slow, the likely cause is worn clutch packs or leaking seals in the directional, shuttle, clutch circuit. Normal pressure readings indicate the pump and main control system are functioning, but if clutch plates are worn or seals are leaking, the clutch piston cannot apply quickly enough despite adequate pressure. The slow response occurs because fluid leaks past the seals, delaying clutch engagement. A flow test or clutch pack inspection is required to confirm this diagnosis. Question 78. What is the purpose of universal joints in a driveline system? A. To filter contaminants from the differential oil based on manufacturer recommendations. B. To increase the speed of the driveshaft as determined by the initial assessment. C. To allow power transmission while accommodating angular changes between connected components. D. To engage the parking brake according to industry standard practice. The correct answer is C. Universal joints, U-joints, allow the drive shaft to transmit power while accommodating the angular relationship between connected components. As suspension moves or as there are differences in height between transmission output and axle input, the angle between components changes. U-joints pivot to maintain power transfer across these changing angles. Without U-joints, the drive shaft would bind or break. Double cardan, constant velocity, joints are used where larger angles are required. Question 79. What should be checked when diagnosing a vibration complaint related to the driveline? A. U-joint condition, drive shaft balance, phasing alignment, and operating angles. B. The windshield wiper operation based on visual inspection alone. C. The engine air filter restriction without performing further verification. D. The cab door adjustment based on the initial evaluation results. The correct answer is A. Driveline vibration diagnosis includes inspecting U-joint condition for wear, looseness, or binding, checking driveshaft balance and straightness, verifying proper phasing, alignment of U-joint yokes, and measuring operating angles to ensure they are within limits and equal at each end. Vibrations typically occur at specific speeds depending on the driveshaft RPM and the source. Out-of-phase driveshafts cause vibration that increases with speed, while worn U-joints often cause vibration under load or during acceleration over deceleration. Question 80. What is the function of the differential in a drive axle assembly? A. To allow the drive wheels to rotate at different speeds during turns while distributing power to both wheels. B. To provide hydraulic power to the steering system based on manufacturer recommendations. C. To reduce driveshaft speed under standard operating conditions. D. To engage four-wheel drive as determined by the initial assessment. The correct answer is A. The differential allows the drive wheels to rotate at different speeds during turns. When a vehicle turns, the outer wheel travels a longer path than the inner wheel and must rotate faster. Without a differential, the axle shafts would be locked together, causing tire scrub and drivetrain stress during turns. The differential gear set divides the power from the ring gear to both axle shafts while allowing them to turn at different speeds. Some differentials include locking mechanisms to prevent differentiation when equal traction is needed. Question 81. How is ring and pinion gear backlash measured on a drive axle? A. By listening for noise during operation according to standard maintenance procedures. B. By measuring the axle shaft length following the recommended service protocol. C. By checking the brake adjustment as outlined in the maintenance work order. D. Using a dial indicator mounted to measure gear tooth movement while holding the pinion stationary. The correct answer is D. Ring and pinion backlash is measured using a dial indicator. The indicator is mounted on the differential carrier with its plunger perpendicular to a ring gear tooth face. While holding the pinion stationary, preventing rotation, the ring gear is rotated back and forth, and the dial indicator measures the movement. This backlash, typically measured at several points around the ring gear, indicates the clearance between the gear teeth. Backlash that is too tight causes noise and overheating, too loose causes excessive wear and noise. Question 82. What is the correct diagnostic procedure when a haul truck has a howling noise from the rear axle that occurs only during acceleration? A. Low tire pressure as specified in the manufacturer's manual. B. Worn brake pads according to standard maintenance procedures. C. Ring and pinion gear wear or incorrect contact pattern on the drive side of the gear teeth. D. Worn windshield wipers as outlined in the maintenance work order. The correct answer is C. Axle noise that occurs only during acceleration, when the ring gear is being driven on its drive side, typically indicates ring and pinion gear wear or incorrect gear tooth contact pattern. During acceleration, power is transmitted through the drive side of the teeth. Under deceleration, the coast side is loaded. If the contact pattern is incorrect, too far toward the toe or heel, or the gears are worn, the noise appears during the condition that loads the damaged area. Diagnosis involves gear tooth contact pattern analysis using marking compound to determine the cause. Question 83. What type of gear system is commonly used in crawler equipment final drives? A. Spur gears only before consulting equipment documentation. B. Planetary gear reduction systems providing high torque multiplication in a compact arrangement. C. V-belt drives regardless of equipment operating conditions. D. Worm gears without reviewing manufacturer specifications. The correct answer is B. Crawler equipment final drives typically use planetary gear reduction systems. Planetary gears provide high torque multiplication in a compact package, which is essential for the high torque demands of crawler equipment. The planetary arrangement consists of a sun gear, planet gears, and a ring gear arranged concentrically. Multiple gear stages can be stacked for greater reduction ratios. The compact design allows the final drive to fit within the track frame while handling the extreme loads required to move heavy equipment. Question 84. What is the correct procedure for checking final drive oil level on a crawler dozer? A. Position the machine level, allow oil to settle, and check at the level plug or sight glass with the fill plug removed. B. Check with the engine running at high idle as specified in the manufacturer's manual. C. Check the oil level only when the machine is hot as outlined in the maintenance work order. D. Drain all oil and measure it in a container following the recommended service protocol. The correct answer is A. Final drive oil level must be checked with the machine on a level surface to ensure accurate measurement. The sprocket should be positioned as specified by the manufacturer. Some require a specific orientation. Allow the oil to settle after operation. Remove the fill plug to relieve pressure, then check at the level plug or sight glass. Oil should be at the level plug opening. Some manufacturers require the machine to be cold, others specify checking after operation. Always follow the manufacturer's specific procedure. Question 85. What indicates potential final drive internal wear when checking the oil? A. Oil level exactly at the full mark using the preliminary assessment data. B. Clear oil with no odor based on visual inspection alone. C. Metal particles visible on the magnetic drain plug or in the oil sample. D. Oil temperature below ambient based on the initial evaluation results. The correct answer is C. Metal particles on the magnetic drain plug or visible in an oil sample indicate internal wear of gears or bearings in the final drive. The magnetic plug is specifically designed to attract and hold ferrous metal particles for inspection. Large particles or increasing quantities of metal debris indicate progressing wear that requires attention. Oil analysis can identify the type of metal, steel, bronze, etc., to help determine which components are wearing. Regular inspection of drain plug debris is an important part of final drive maintenance. Question 86. What is the purpose of a transfer case in an all-wheel drive heavy equipment application? A. To cool the transmission oil before consulting equipment documentation. B. To filter hydraulic oil regardless of equipment operating conditions. C. To engage the parking brake without reviewing manufacturer specifications. D. To distribute power from the transmission to multiple drive axles and may provide additional gear reduction. The correct answer is D. The transfer case distributes power from the transmission output to multiple drive axles, front and rear, or multiple axles in multi-axle machines. It may include a gear reduction for additional torque multiplication in low-range operation. Many transfer cases also include a differential to allow different speeds between axles, or a locking feature to lock axle speeds together for maximum traction. The transfer case may be an integral part of the transmission or a separate unit mounted after the transmission. Question 87. A grader with a locked transfer case driveline experiences repeated driveline failures. What operating condition could cause this problem? A. Operating on paved roads with the interaxle differential locked, causing driveline wind-up from wheels forced to rotate at the same speed. B. Operating at high altitudes under standard operating conditions. C. Operating with the windows open according to industry standard practice. D. Using the wrong coolant mixture based on manufacturer recommendations. The correct answer is A. When a transfer case or interaxle differential is locked, all drive axles are forced to rotate at the same speed. On paved roads where tire grip is high, different axle speeds are needed during turns, outer wheels travel farther. With the differential locked, the driveline components twist, wind up, to absorb the speed difference, creating extreme stress. Repeated cycling of this stress causes fatigue failures in U-joints, driveshafts, and axle components. Differential locks should only be used in low traction conditions where wheel slip can relieve the wind-up. Question 88. What is the function of the compressor in a heavy equipment air conditioning system? A. To filter contaminants and moisture from refrigerant. B. To compress refrigerant gas enabling refrigeration cycle. C. To heat the cab during cold weather winter operation. D. To cool the air directly inside operator cab area. The correct answer is B. The compressor is the heart of the AC system, compressing low pressure, low temperature refrigerant gas from the evaporator into high pressure, high temperature gas. This compression adds energy to the refrigerant, raising its temperature above ambient so it can release heat in the condenser. The compressor is typically belt-driven from the engine and controlled by a clutch that engages and disengages based on system demand and protection parameters. Question 89. What type of refrigerant is currently used in most new heavy equipment air conditioning systems? A. R12, CFC refrigerant, phased out. B. R134A or R1234YF, depending on the model year and environmental regulations. C. Ammonia-based refrigerant systems without reviewing manufacturer specifications. D. Carbon dioxide only without considering system requirements. The correct answer is B. Most heavy equipment AC systems use R134A, HFC 134A, or the newer R1234YF, HFO 1234YF, refrigerant. R12 was phased out due to ozone depletion concerns. R134A became the standard replacement but has high global warming potential. R1234YF has lower environmental impact and is being adopted in newer equipment. Technicians must identify the correct refrigerant for each system, as mixing refrigerants causes system damage and environmental violations. Different oils are required for each refrigerant type. Question 90. What is the correct procedure for checking AC system pressures? A. Use a tire pressure gauge on the receiver dryer as specified in the manufacturer's manual B. Measure pressure only when the system is off according to standard maintenance procedures C. Connect a manifold gauge set to the service ports and measure high and low side pressures with the engine running at specified RPM and AC at maximum cooling. D. Check pressure at the compressor oil fill port following the recommended service protocol. The correct answer is C. AC system pressure testing requires connecting a manifold gauge set to the high and low side service ports. The engine should be run at the manufacturer's specified RPM, typically 1500 to 2000 RPM, with the AC set to maximum cooling and recirculation. Ambient temperature affects normal pressure readings, so readings must be compared to a pressure temperature chart. Low side pressure indicates evaporator conditions, high side indicates condenser conditions. Abnormal pressures point to specific system problems. Question 91. What must be done before opening an AC system for repairs? A. Open the system to atmosphere to release pressure as determined by the initial assessment. B. Recover the refrigerant using approved recovery equipment to prevent release to atmosphere. C. Add more refrigerant to flush the system based on manufacturer recommendations. D. Remove the compressor belt only according to industry standard practice. The correct answer is B. Before opening any AC system, refrigerant must be recovered using approved recovery equipment. Releasing refrigerant to the atmosphere is illegal under environmental regulations and harmful to the environment. The recovery equipment captures the refrigerant for recycling or proper disposal. After recovery, the system can be safely opened for repairs. Before recharging, the system should be evacuated with a vacuum pump to remove air and moisture. Only certified technicians should handle refrigerants. Question 92. An excavator's AC system has high pressure on both the high and low sides with reduced cooling. What is the most likely cause? A. Worn compressor belt according to industry standard practice. B. Low refrigerant charge under standard operating conditions. C. Faulty evaporator temperature sensor as determined by the initial assessment. D. Restricted or blocked condenser preventing heat release, or condenser fan not operating. The correct answer is D. High pressure on both sides with reduced cooling indicates the system cannot release heat effectively. This is typically caused by a blocked or restricted condenser, dirt, debris, damaged fins, or a condenser fan that is not operating. The high side pressure rises because heat cannot dissipate, the low side pressure rises because the thermal expansion valve receives refrigerant that is still hot. Cleaning the condenser or repairing the fan typically resolves this condition. Air in the system can cause similar symptoms. Question 93. What is the correct procedure for replacing an AC compressor on heavy equipment? A. Recover refrigerant, install new compressor with correct oil charge, replace receiver dryer, evacuate system, and recharge with specified amount of refrigerant. B. Install the new compressor without adding oil according to standard maintenance procedures. C. Simply swap compressors and recharge as specified in the manufacturer's manual. D. Add extra refrigerant to compensate for compressor wear following the recommended service protocol. The correct answer is A. Proper compressor replacement requires recovering all refrigerant first. The new compressor should be verified for correct oil charge, adding or removing oil as needed per manufacturer specifications. The receiver dryer or accumulator should be replaced because it absorbs moisture and loses effectiveness when exposed to air. After installation, the system must be evacuated with a vacuum pump to remove air and moisture, then recharged with the exact specified amount of refrigerant. Skipping steps leads to premature failure. Question 94. What is the function of the heater core in a heavy equipment cab heating system? A. To filter the outside air without considering system requirements. B. To compress the refrigerant before consulting equipment documentation. C. To transfer heat from engine coolant to the cab airstream. D. To cool the hydraulic oil regardless of equipment operating conditions. The correct answer is C. The heater core is a small heat exchanger located in the HVAC housing. Hot engine coolant circulates through the core, and the blower fan forces air through the core fins, transferring heat from the coolant to the air. The heated air is then distributed to the cab through the duct system. Heater core problems include leaks, causing coolant odor or fogging, restricted flow, reduced heat output, and clogged fins, reduced airflow. Proper cooling system maintenance prevents many heater core issues. Question 95. What should be checked when diagnosing a fuel-fired heater that fails to ignite? A. The transmission oil level using the preliminary assessment data B. The battery electrolyte level based on the initial evaluation results. C. Fuel supply, glow plug or ignition source, combustion air supply, and exhaust system for blockage. D. The AC compressor clutch based on visual inspection alone. The correct answer is C. Fuel-fired heaters require fuel, ignition, and air for combustion. Diagnosis should check fuel supply including fuel pump operation, line condition, and filter restriction. The ignition source, glow plug, spark igniter, must be tested for proper operation. Combustion air intake and exhaust must be clear of blockages, ice, debris, nests. The control module and sensors should be checked for fault codes. The combustion blower motor must operate to supply air and exhaust gases. A systematic approach identifies the failed component. Question 96. How should cab pressurization be tested on a machine designed to operate in dusty environments? A. Visual inspection of the door seals only according to standard maintenance procedures. B. Check the cab paint for dust accumulation as specified in the manufacturer's manual. C. Measure the engine oil pressure following the recommended service protocol. D. Measure positive pressure inside the cab relative to outside using a manometer while the pressurization system is operating. The correct answer is D. Cab pressurization testing requires measuring the positive pressure differential between inside and outside the cab using a manometer or pressure gauge. With the doors and windows closed and the pressurization system running, typically the HVAC blower on fresh air setting, the cab should maintain specified positive pressure, often 12 to 25 pascals. Inadequate pressure allows dust infiltration through gaps. Testing should also check filter condition, blower operation, and seal integrity. Positive pressure keeps dust out by pushing air outward through any small gaps. Question 97. What is the function of a hydraulic pump in a heavy equipment hydraulic system? A. To increase hydraulic oil viscosity for protection. B. To store hydraulic energy under high pressure. C. To create flow converting mechanical to hydraulic energy. D. To control the direction of hydraulic fluid flow. The correct answer is C. The hydraulic pump creates flow by converting mechanical energy, from the engine or electric motor, into hydraulic energy. The pump does not create pressure directly, pressure is the result of resistance to flow in the system. There are several pump types used in heavy equipment including gear pumps, vane pumps, and piston pumps. The pump's flow rate and the system's resistance determine the operating pressure. Pump selection depends on the required flow, pressure, and efficiency requirements of the application. Question 98. What type of hydraulic pump is commonly used in heavy equipment applications requiring high pressure and variable flow? A. Manual hand pump for emergency backup use. B. Variable displacement axial piston pump. C. External gear pump with fixed displacement. D. Centrifugal pump with high volume output. The correct answer is B. Variable displacement axial piston pumps are commonly used in heavy equipment because they can provide high pressures, up to 5,000 psi or more, and can vary their output flow based on system demand. The displacement is changed by adjusting the swash plate angle, which changes the piston stroke. This allows the pump to match output to demand, reducing power consumption and heat generation compared to fixed displacement pumps that must dump excess flow. Axial piston pumps also have high efficiency and long service life when properly maintained. Question 99. How should hydraulic system pressure be tested on an excavator? A. Install a calibrated pressure gauge at the test port and measure pressure under load conditions as specified by the manufacturer. B. Measure voltage at the pump motor as specified in the manufacturer's manual. C. Estimate pressure by observing cylinder speed according to standard maintenance procedures. D. Check the paint color on the pressure lines following the recommended service protocol. The correct answer is A. Hydraulic pressure testing requires installing a calibrated pressure gauge rated for the expected pressure at the designated test port. Measurements should be taken under specific conditions specified by the manufacturer, typically including various load conditions, operating temperatures, and component positions. Relief valve settings, working pressures, and standby pressures are all tested against specifications. Using proper test equipment and following manufacturer procedures ensures accurate diagnosis and prevents damage from improper testing techniques. Question 100. What is the correct diagnostic procedure when an excavator has slow implement speed with normal system pressure and oil temperature within specification? A. Pump flow has decreased due to internal wear, or there is internal leakage in the cylinder or control valve. B. The engine is overpowered for the application as outlined in the maintenance work order. C. Hydraulic oil viscosity is too low following the recommended service protocol. D. Relief valve set too high according to standard maintenance procedures. The correct answer is A. When system pressure is normal but implement speed is slow, flow is the issue rather than pressure. This typically indicates reduced pump output due to internal wear, worn piston, barrel, or valve plate, or internal leakage past cylinder seals or control valve spools. A flow meter test will confirm reduced pump output. If pump flow is normal, internal leakage in the circuit, cylinder bypass or valve leakage, is consuming flow without producing work. Systematic flow testing throughout the circuit locates the leakage point. Question 101. What is the purpose of the hydraulic reservoir in a heavy equipment hydraulic system? A. To control implement direction without considering system requirements. B. To create hydraulic pressure regardless of equipment operating conditions. C. To filter the engine oil without reviewing manufacturer specifications. D. To store hydraulic fluid, allow air separation, dissipate heat, and allow contaminants to settle. The correct answer is D. The hydraulic reservoir serves multiple important functions. It stores adequate fluid for system operation plus reserve for component filling. It provides a quiet zone for entrained air to separate from the fluid before entering the pump. It dissipates heat from the returning fluid through the tank walls, and it allows heavy contaminants to settle to the bottom away from the suction line. Proper reservoir design with baffles, adequate size, and correct fluid level is essential for system reliability. Question 102. What is the correct procedure for changing a hydraulic filter on heavy equipment? A. Reuse the old O-rings and gaskets following the recommended service protocol. B. Relieve system pressure, clean the area around the filter housing, replace with correct filter, and verify proper seating of the element. C. Remove the filter while the system is pressurized for faster oil drainage according to standard maintenance procedures. D. Run the engine at high idle while changing the filter as specified in the manufacturer's manual. The correct answer is B. Proper hydraulic filter change procedure begins with relieving system pressure to prevent injury from pressurized fluid. The area around the filter housing must be cleaned to prevent contaminant entry. The correct replacement element must be verified for the application. New O-rings or gaskets should be installed and lubricated. After installation, the element must be properly seated in the housing. Some systems require priming or bleeding after filter change. Proper disposal of the used filter and contained oil is required. Question 103. What does a milky or foamy appearance of hydraulic oil indicate? A. The system is operating at optimal temperature. B. The oil is new and properly conditioned. C. The oil has been properly filtered. D. Water or air contamination in the hydraulic system. The correct answer is D. Milky or foamy hydraulic oil indicates contamination with water or air. Milky appearance results from water emulsified in the oil, which occurs when water content exceeds the oil's saturation point. Foamy appearance indicates aeration, caused by air entering through loose suction connections, low fluid level, or failed seals. Both conditions damage the system. Water causes corrosion and reduces lubrication. Air causes cavitation, overheating, and erratic operation. The contamination source must be identified and corrected, and severely contaminated oil must be replaced. Question 104. How should a hydraulic cylinder be tested for internal leakage? A. Apply pressure to one port with the rod blocked, then monitor pressure drop or rod drift over time. B. Listen for noise during operation according to standard maintenance procedures. C. Check the paint condition on the cylinder as outlined in the maintenance work order. D. Measure the outside diameter of the cylinder barrel as specified in the manufacturer's manual. The correct answer is A. Cylinder internal leakage testing involves blocking cylinder movement and applying pressure to one side while monitoring for pressure drop or rod drift. With the cylinder rod mechanically blocked or against a stop, pressure is applied and held. Pressure drop over time or visible rod movement indicates oil bypassing the piston seals. The rate of leakage helps determine the severity. Some manufacturers specify acceptable drift rates. Excessive internal leakage causes slow cylinder operation and requires seal replacement or cylinder rebuild. Question 105. What diagnostic procedure should be followed when a loader's hydraulic system makes a high-pitched whine that increases with engine RPM? A. Overfilled hydraulic reservoir according to standard maintenance procedures. B. Pump cavitation caused by restricted suction line, low fluid level, or high oil viscosity. C. Cylinder seal wear following the recommended service protocol. D. Control valve spool sticking as specified in the manufacturer's manual. The correct answer is B. A high-pitched whine that increases with engine RPM typically indicates pump cavitation. Cavitation occurs when the pump cannot receive adequate oil flow, causing vapor bubbles to form and collapse in the pump. Common causes include restricted suction line or filter, low fluid level, suction air leak, or oil that is too cold, high viscosity. Cavitation causes pump damage if not corrected. The suction side should be inspected for restrictions, the fluid level verified, and oil temperature checked. Operating the machine in cold conditions without warm-up can cause temporary cavitation. Question 106. What procedure should be followed when bleeding air from a hydraulic system after repairs? A. Add air to the system intentionally as outlined in the maintenance work order. B. Cycle all functions slowly through their full range multiple times while checking for air purge at the reservoir. C. Run the system at maximum pressure immediately according to standard maintenance procedures. D. Drive the machine at high speed following the recommended service protocol. The correct answer is B. Air bleeding after hydraulic repairs requires cycling all functions slowly through their full range of motion multiple times. This allows trapped air to work through the circuit to the reservoir where it can escape. The reservoir should be monitored for air bubbles rising to the surface. Cylinders may need to be cycled beyond their normal working range if possible. The system should be operated at reduced speed initially to prevent damage from aerated oil. Fluid level should be checked and topped up as air is purged and components fill. Question 107. What is the function of a pilot-operated check valve in a hydraulic circuit? A. To filter hydraulic oil without performing further verification. B. To hold a load in position by blocking flow until pilot pressure is applied to open the valve. C. To cool the hydraulic fluid based on the initial evaluation results. D. To regulate system pressure based on visual inspection alone. The correct answer is B. A pilot-operated check valve allows free flow in one direction but blocks flow in the opposite direction until pilot pressure is applied. This is commonly used for load holding, where a cylinder must hold a load without drifting. The check valve blocks oil from escaping the cylinder. When the operator commands movement, pilot pressure opens the check valve, allowing controlled lowering. Without pilot pressure, the valve seals and the load is held securely. This is critical for safety in applications like loader lift cylinders. Question 108. What is a hydrostatic transmission? A. A system using a hydraulic pump and motor connected in a closed circuit to provide infinitely variable speed control. B. A transmission that uses steel gears only according to industry standard practice. C. An electric motor driving a gearbox based on manufacturer recommendations. D. A transmission cooled by water spray as determined by the initial assessment. The correct answer is A. A hydrostatic transmission uses a hydraulic pump and hydraulic motor connected in a closed-loop circuit. The pump, typically a variable displacement axial piston type, is driven by the engine. Oil flows from the pump directly to the motor and returns in a closed circuit. By varying the pump displacement and direction, the motor speed and direction are controlled, providing infinitely variable speed control without mechanical shifting. This system is commonly used in skid steer loaders, compact track loaders, and other equipment requiring smooth, variable speed control. Question 109. What is the purpose of the charge pump in a hydrostatic drive system? A. To charge the batteries as determined by the initial assessment. B. To increase maximum system pressure based on manufacturer recommendations. C. To filter the exhaust gases according to industry standard practice. D. To maintain minimum loop pressure, provide makeup oil for leakage, and supply oil for control functions. The correct answer is D. The charge pump is a small fixed displacement pump that maintains minimum pressure in the closed loop, typically 250 to 400 psi, supplies makeup oil to replace internal leakage from the pump and motor, and provides control pressure for the displacement control system. Without adequate charge pressure, the main loop would develop cavitation on the low pressure side, causing pump and motor damage. Charge pressure is typically checked as part of system diagnostics, and low charge pressure indicates pump wear or internal leakage. Question 110. How is hydrostatic transmission efficiency tested? A. By comparing input power to output power under load conditions, typically by measuring case drain flow and system pressures. B. By measuring engine coolant temperature according to standard maintenance procedures. C. By measuring battery voltage as outlined in the maintenance work order. D. By checking the paint on the motor housing as specified in the manufacturer's manual. The correct answer is A. Hydrostatic transmission efficiency is evaluated by comparing input power to output power under controlled conditions. Practical testing includes measuring case drain flow from the pump and motor. High case drain indicates internal leakage, comparing loop pressures under load, and measuring ground speed versus input speed. Some manufacturers specify acceptable case drain flow rates at given pressures. Efficiency loss appears as heat, so monitoring temperature rise also indicates system condition. A significant drop in efficiency indicates internal wear requiring overhaul. Question 111. A skid steer has reduced travel speed and power on one side. Both drive motors are the same model. The pump charge pressure is normal. What should be checked? A. The engine coolant level using the preliminary assessment data. B. The fuel filter restriction based on visual inspection alone. C. The cab seat adjustment without performing further verification. D. The pump displacement control for the affected side, loop pressures, and case drain flow from the affected motor. The correct answer is D. With normal charge pressure and one side operating correctly, the problem is isolated to the affected side's pump output or motor. The pump displacement control should be checked for proper operation, as a stuck swash plate limits output. Loop pressure should be compared between sides to identify if the pump is creating pressure. Elevated case drain flow from the motor indicates internal wear allowing bypass. If the pump shows normal output, the motor is the likely cause. Comparing measurements between the good and bad sides helps isolate the faulty component. Question 112. What must be done before starting a hydrostatic transmission that has been out of service or repaired? A. Fill the case with engine oil under standard operating conditions under standard operating conditions. B. Disconnect all hydraulic lines based on manufacturer recommendations based on manufacturer recommendations. C. Remove the drive motors according to industry standard practice according to industry standard practice. D. Fill the pump and motor cases with clean hydraulic oil, prime the charge circuit, and verify proper rotation before applying load. The correct answer is D. Before starting a hydrostatic transmission after service or extended storage, the pump and motor cases must be filled with clean hydraulic oil to provide initial lubrication. The charge circuit should be primed by filling the filter and housing. After starting, the engine should run at low idle while checking for proper charge pressure before any load is applied. Proper rotation should be verified, as running a hydrostatic system in the wrong direction can cause damage. These steps prevent dry start damage to bearings and rotating components. Question 113. What is the function of the high-pressure relief valves in a hydrostatic closed-loop system? A. To maintain a constant operating pressure under standard operating conditions. B. To regulate charge pressure as determined by the initial assessment. C. To control steering response according to industry standard practice. D. To limit maximum loop pressure and protect the pump and motor from damage under stall conditions. The correct answer is D. High-pressure relief valves in a closed-loop hydrostatic system limit maximum pressure to protect the pump, motor, and other components. When the drive encounters an immovable obstacle or stalls, pressure rises rapidly. The relief valves open at the set pressure, typically 4,500 to 6,000 psi, allowing oil to bypass and preventing component damage. There are typically two relief valves, one for each direction of travel. Proper relief valve settings are critical for both protection and maximum tractive effort. Incorrect settings can cause damage or reduced performance. Question 114. When replacing a hydrostatic drive motor, what precaution is required regarding the replacement unit? A. Test the motor with engine oil first based on manufacturer recommendations based on manufacturer recommendations. B. Verify the replacement motor has the correct displacement, rotation, shaft spline, and port configuration for the application. C. Paint the new motor to match the old one under standard operating conditions under standard operating conditions. D. Use any available motor that fits physically as determined by the initial assessment as determined by the initial assessment. The correct answer is B. When replacing a hydrostatic drive motor, the replacement unit must exactly match the original specifications. Critical matching criteria include displacement, effect speed and torque, rotation direction, may damage if wrong, shaft spline configuration, must mate with driven component, port configuration and size, and mounting pattern. Using an incorrect motor can cause poor performance, damage to the motor or driven components, or unsafe operation. The manufacturer's part number should be verified, and any supersession information checked before installation. Question 115. How is reverse direction achieved in a hydrostatic drive system? A. By switching battery polarity following the recommended service protocol. B. By reversing the pump displacement angle, which reverses the direction of oil flow in the loop. C. By using a separate reverse gear according to standard maintenance procedures. D. By engaging a mechanical clutch as outlined in the maintenance work order. The correct answer is B. In a hydrostatic drive system, reverse is achieved by reversing the pump swashplate angle past center, over center. This reverses the direction of oil flow in the closed loop, which reverses the motor rotation. The control linkage moves the swashplate from forward through neutral to reverse positions. This provides smooth, stepless reversal without mechanical shifting. The same principle allows infinite speed variation from 0 to maximum in either direction by varying the swashplate angle. Question 116. What is the function of the air dryer in a heavy equipment pneumatic brake system? A. To remove moisture from the compressed air before it enters the brake system reservoirs. B. To cool the engine without considering system requirements. C. To increase air pressure regardless of equipment operating conditions. D. To lubricate the brake components without reviewing manufacturer specifications. The correct answer is A. The air dryer removes moisture from compressed air before it enters the brake system reservoirs. Moisture in the air system can cause corrosion, freeze in cold conditions blocking air passages, and damage valves and seals. The air dryer uses a desiccant material to absorb moisture. During the purge cycle, dry air flows backward through the desiccant to regenerate it for continued use. Regular maintenance including desiccant replacement is essential for reliable brake system operation, especially in varying climate conditions. Question 117. How should air brake system leakage be tested? A. Build system to full pressure, shut off the engine, and measure pressure drop over time against specifications, apply brakes and repeat. B. Visual inspection only according to standard maintenance procedures C. Check the coolant level following the recommended service protocol D. Measure engine oil pressure as specified in the manufacturer's manual The correct answer is A. Air brake leakage testing requires building system pressure to the governor cutout setting with the engine running, then shutting off the engine. Pressure drop is monitored over a specified time period, typically 1 minute for single vehicles, 3 minutes for combinations. Specifications limit acceptable pressure drop, typically 2 to 3 psi per minute. The test is repeated with brakes applied to test the service brake circuit. Leakage can be located using soap solution at connections and components. Excessive leakage can cause brake fade or failure. Question 118. An articulated haul truck has slow air pressure buildup. The compressor unloads properly at maximum pressure. What is the most likely cause? A. Worn compressor rings, excessive system leakage, or restricted air lines. B. The parking brake is released under standard operating conditions. C. The engine is too powerful based on manufacturer recommendations. D. The tires are overinflated according to industry standard practice. The correct answer is A. Slow air pressure buildup with normal governor function indicates the compressor is not pumping efficiently or air is escaping as fast as it is being produced. Worn compressor rings or valves reduce pumping capacity. Excessive system leakage consumes air faster than the compressor can supply. Restricted air lines from the compressor limit flow. Testing involves checking compressor output at the discharge, before the system, to determine if the problem is compressor capacity or system leakage. If compressor output is low, rebuild or replacement is needed. Question 119. What is the correct procedure for draining moisture from air brake system reservoirs? A. Drain only the primary reservoir as outlined in the maintenance work order B. With system depressurized, open drain valves on each reservoir until all moisture is expelled, then close valves securely. C. Only drain when the system fails according to standard maintenance procedures D. Add antifreeze to the reservoirs as specified in the manufacturer's manual The correct answer is B. Air brake reservoirs should be drained regularly, daily in some applications, to remove accumulated moisture. The system should be depressurized first for safety. Each reservoir's drain valve, manual or automatic, should be opened fully to allow any collected water and contaminants to escape. The valve should be left open briefly to ensure complete drainage, then closed securely. All reservoirs, wet tank, primary, secondary, and any auxiliary tanks, should be drained. Automatic drain valves should be checked for proper operation during routine maintenance. Question 120. What is the function of the quick release valve in an air brake system? A. To regulate maximum system pressure as determined by the initial assessment. B. To exhaust air quickly from the brake chamber when brakes are released, reducing brake release time. C. To increase brake application force under standard operating conditions. D. To engage the parking brake based on manufacturer recommendations. The correct answer is B. The quick release valve is mounted near the brake chambers to exhaust air quickly when the brakes are released. Without quick release valves, air would have to travel back through long lines to exhaust at the control valve, causing delayed brake release. The quick release valve opens when supply pressure drops, exhausting the brake chamber directly to atmosphere. This reduces brake drag and improves vehicle control. Quick release valves are especially important on the rear axles of long vehicles where air lines are longest. Question 121. What is the primary purpose of regular inspection of heavy equipment frame components? A. To identify cracks, corrosion, or structural damage. B. To verify paint color consistency and appearance. C. To measure and track engine oil consumption rates. D. To check tire tread patterns and wear condition. The correct answer is A. Regular frame inspection identifies cracks, corrosion, weld failures, or other damage before they lead to catastrophic structural failure. Heavy equipment frames endure enormous stresses from loads, impacts, and vibration. Small cracks can propagate and lead to sudden failure. Corrosion weakens the structure over time. Key inspection areas include weld joints, stress concentration points, pivot areas, and mounting points for major components. Early detection allows planned repairs rather than emergency breakdowns or accidents. Question 122. What method is commonly used to detect cracks in heavy equipment frames that are not visible to the eye? A. Dye-penetrant testing or magnetic particle inspection to reveal surface and near-surface cracks. B. Checking the hydraulic fluid level as outlined in the maintenance work order. C. Measuring the weight of the frame as specified in the manufacturer's manual. D. Listening for unusual sounds during operation according to standard maintenance procedures. The correct answer is A. Dye-penetrant testing, for non-magnetic materials, and magnetic particle inspection, for ferrous materials, are common non-destructive testing methods for detecting cracks. Dye-penetrant involves applying a colored or fluorescent dye that seeps into cracks, then applying a developer that draws the dye out to reveal the crack location. Magnetic particle inspection uses magnetic fields and iron particles to indicate crack locations in magnetic materials. These methods can detect cracks too small to see with the naked eye but that could propagate under stress. Question 123. What precautions must be taken when performing welding repairs on heavy equipment frames? A. No special precautions are needed for welding before consulting equipment documentation. B. Paint the weld area before welding without reviewing manufacturer specifications. C. Follow manufacturer's approved repair procedures, use correct welding process and consumables, preheat if required, and stress relieve if specified. D. Use only oxyacetylene welding regardless of equipment operating conditions. The correct answer is C. Structural welding on heavy equipment requires strict adherence to manufacturer-approved procedures. The correct welding process, typically MIG or stick with specific electrodes, and consumables must be used for the base material. Many high-strength steels require preheating to prevent hydrogen cracking. Post-weld heat treatment or stress relieving may be specified. Proper joint preparation, welding sequence, and inspection are critical. Unauthorized repairs may void warranties and could lead to premature failure. In some cases, the manufacturer may require replacement rather than repair. Question 124. What is a ROPS and what is its function on heavy equipment? A. Rollover protective structure designed to protect the operator in case of machine rollover. B. A type of engine mounting regardless of equipment operating conditions. C. A type of hydraulic pump without reviewing manufacturer specifications. D. A radio communication system without considering system requirements. The correct answer is A. A rollover protective structure, ROPS, is a reinforced cab or frame structure designed to protect the operator if the machine rolls over. ROPS are required on most heavy equipment and must meet specific standards, such as SAE J1040 or ISO 3471, for strength and deformation limits. The structure creates a protected zone for the operator. ROPS must be inspected regularly for damage, cracks, or modifications that could compromise their protective capability. Any damaged ROPS must be replaced or repaired per manufacturer specifications. Question 125. When replacing operator seat components, what must be verified? A. Only the color matches the original before consulting equipment documentation. B. Seat mount compatibility, seat belt anchor integrity, and proper adjustment range for operator safety and comfort. C. The seat is heavier than the original regardless of equipment operating conditions. D. The seat is softer than the original without considering system requirements. The correct answer is B. Replacement seat components must be verified for proper mounting compatibility with the existing structure. Seat belt anchors must maintain their integrity and meet safety requirements. The seat adjustment range, fore over aft, height, tilt, must accommodate the expected operator size range. Armrest and control positions must not create ergonomic hazards. For seats with integrated controls, proper electrical connections must be verified. Using incorrect or substandard seats can increase operator fatigue and create safety hazards, especially regarding restraint system effectiveness. Question 126. An excavator operator reports excessive vibration and noise in the cab that has developed recently. Machine operation is otherwise normal. What should be investigated first? A. Cab mounting bushings, viscous mounts, or isolators for wear or deterioration. B. The engine spark plug condition without reviewing manufacturer specifications. C. The fuel tank capacity regardless of equipment operating conditions. D. The excavator bucket teeth condition before consulting equipment documentation. The correct answer is A. New vibration and noise in the cab typically indicate deteriorated isolation between the cab and frame. Cab mounting bushings, viscous dampers, or rubber isolators absorb vibration from the engine and working equipment. When these deteriorate, vibration transmits directly to the cab structure. Visual inspection may reveal cracked, collapsed, or oil-leaking mounts. Replacement of worn mounts restores cab isolation. If mounts appear serviceable, other sources like engine mount condition, driveline balance, or new equipment vibration sources should be investigated. Question 127. What is the purpose of FOPS on heavy equipment? A. Falling object protective structure designed to protect the operator from falling objects. B. A type of fuel optimization performance system regardless of equipment operating conditions. C. A forward operating positioning system without considering system requirements. D. To filter oil particles from the hydraulic system without reviewing manufacturer specifications. The correct answer is A. A falling object protective structure, FOPS, is a reinforced roof or canopy designed to protect the operator from objects falling from above, such as in forestry, demolition, or material handling applications. FOPS must meet standards, such as SAE J231 or ISO 3449, for impact resistance. Like ROPS, FOPS must be inspected regularly for damage that could compromise protection. Some machines have combination ROPS over FOPS structures. FOPS requirements depend on the application and potential hazards involved. Question 128. What must be verified when installing a quick coupler system for attachments on an excavator? A. The coupler color matches the machine under standard operating conditions under standard operating conditions. B. Coupler compatibility with the carrier and attachments, proper sizing, locking mechanism function, and hydraulic circuit connections. C. The coupler was manufactured in the same year as the excavator according to industry standard practice. D. The coupler brand is the most expensive available based on manufacturer recommendations. The correct answer is B. Quick coupler installation requires verification of compatibility between the coupler, carrier machine, and intended attachments. The coupler must be properly sized for the machine weight class and pin dimensions of the attachments. The locking mechanism must function reliably with positive indication of locked status. Hydraulic connections for coupler operation and attachment circuits must be correct. Safety features like secondary locks should be verified. Improper installation or incompatible couplers have caused accidents from unexpected attachment release. Question 129. What maintenance should be performed on hydraulic hammer, breaker, attachments? A. Replace the hammer every month regardless of condition as determined by the initial assessment. B. Check tool wear and retention, inspect wear bushings, verify proper nitrogen charge, and check hydraulic hose condition. C. Only visual inspection of the paint under standard operating conditions D. Only add grease to the housing based on manufacturer recommendations The correct answer is B. Hydraulic hammer maintenance includes inspecting the tool for wear and ensuring proper retention in the lower bushing. Where bushings at the tool end should be checked for excessive clearance. The nitrogen charge in the accumulator must be verified at specified intervals, as improper charge affects performance and can damage the hammer. Hydraulic hoses should be inspected for wear, leaks, and routing that could cause damage. Mounting pins and bushings should be checked for wear. Following manufacturer maintenance schedules maximizes hammer life and productivity. Question 130. What procedure should be followed when connecting hydraulic lines to a newly installed attachment? A. Clean connections, match correct ports, connect with system depressurized, then slowly activate to purge air and verify function. B. Leave connections loose until tested as outlined in the maintenance work order. C. Connect lines in any order and run at full pressure according to standard maintenance procedures. D. Force connections together even if they resist following the recommended service protocol. The correct answer is A. Proper hydraulic connection procedure requires cleaning all connections to prevent contamination entry. Correct port matching is critical, as cross-connected lines cause incorrect function or damage. Connections should be made with the system depressurized to prevent injury. After connection, the system should be activated slowly to purge trapped air and verify correct operation. Checking for leaks at connections is essential. Following proper procedure prevents contamination damage, injury from pressurized fittings, and incorrect attachment operation. Question 131. How should attachment pins and bushings be inspected for wear? A. Only visual inspection from a distance according to standard maintenance procedures. B. Measure actual clearance between pin and bushing using appropriate gauges and compare to manufacturer specifications. C. Check if the attachment color has faded as specified in the manufacturer's manual. D. Listen for noise during operation only as outlined in the maintenance work order. The correct answer is B. Pin and bushing wear inspection requires measuring the actual clearance between components using appropriate gauges such as feeler gauges or inside over outside micrometers. The measured clearance is compared to manufacturer specifications for new and maximum allowable wear limits. Visual inspection can reveal obvious damage or wear patterns but cannot quantify the clearance. Excessive clearance causes hammering, accelerated wear, poor control, and potential failure. Grease fittings should also be checked for proper lubrication. Worn components should be replaced before failure occurs. Question 132. What is a hybrid heavy equipment system? A. Equipment that operates using only diesel fuel power. B. Equipment with two different exterior paint color schemes. C. A machine equipped with two separate diesel engines. D. A system combining combustion engine with electric motor. The correct answer is D. Hybrid heavy equipment combines a conventional internal combustion engine with an electric motor and energy storage system, typically batteries or ultracapacitors. The system captures energy during deceleration or lowering operations and uses it to assist during acceleration or lifting. This improves fuel efficiency, reduces emissions, and can provide instant torque from the electric motor. Different hybrid architectures include series, parallel, and series parallel configurations, each with specific advantages for different applications. Question 133. What safety procedures must be followed before servicing high-voltage components on hybrid heavy equipment? A. Follow lockout-tagout procedures, verify zero-energy state, wear appropriate PPE including Class 0 electrical gloves, and follow manufacturer-specific isolation procedures. B. Simply turn off the ignition switch as outlined in the job safety analysis C. No special procedures are required, following established workplace procedures. D. Disconnect only the 12-volt battery according to workplace safety requirements. The correct answer is A. High-voltage hybrid systems require strict safety procedures. The high-voltage system must be de-energized and isolated following manufacturer-specific procedures, which may include service disconnect switches and discharge procedures. Zero-energy state must be verified using appropriate test equipment rated for the voltage level. Class 0 or higher electrical-rated gloves and face shield must be worn. Technicians must be trained and qualified for high-voltage work. Many manufacturers require manufacturer-specific training before technicians can work on their hybrid systems. Question 134. An all-electric excavator shows reduced operating time and power. Battery state of charge indicates full charge, but the machine derates quickly under load. What should be investigated? A. The engine oil level as specified in the manufacturer's manual. B. Battery cell balance, battery management system diagnostics, and actual battery capacity versus rated capacity. C. The transmission fluid condition following the recommended service protocol. D. The diesel fuel quality according to standard maintenance procedures. The correct answer is B. When an electric machine shows full charge but cannot sustain power, the actual battery capacity has likely degraded below its rated value, or cell imbalance is limiting usable capacity. Battery Management System (BMS) diagnostics can reveal cell voltage variations, temperature issues, or capacity fade. Individual cells may be weak, limiting the pack's ability to deliver sustained power. The BMS may show errors indicating pack issues. Some systems can test actual capacity versus rated capacity. Battery degradation over time is normal but accelerated by improper charging, temperature extremes, or deep discharging. Question 135. What routine maintenance is required for all-electric heavy equipment battery systems? A. Replace batteries every month regardless of equipment operating conditions. B. Add distilled water weekly to all battery cells before consulting equipment documentation. C. Inspect connections for corrosion and tightness, monitor charging system function, check cooling system operation, and follow manufacturer maintenance schedules. D. Discharge batteries completely before each charging cycle without considering system requirements. The correct answer is C. All-electric equipment battery maintenance includes inspecting high-voltage connections for corrosion, looseness, or damage, with system de-energized. The charging system should be monitored for proper operation and completion of charge cycles. Battery cooling systems, liquid or air, must be checked for proper function, as temperature management is critical for battery life. Manufacturer maintenance schedules should be followed for inspections and software updates. Battery management system logs should be reviewed for errors or anomalies. Many systems require specialized diagnostic tools for complete maintenance. Thanks for watching Factorial. If you found this helpful, please subscribe for more Red Seal exam prep. Visit questionbankhub.com for practice exams and study materials. Good luck on your certification Factorial.